On this episode of Star Trek Universe, a strange new wrinkle regarding the announcement of Star Trek 4, plus our review of Discovery 410, the Galactic Barrier, after these words from our mystery sponsor.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where two lifelong friends talk about Star Trek like they've been doing since they were 6 years old. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
How you doing, Davo?
I hurt my back again.
Oh no! What happened?
I placed a can into the trash bin. I'm serious, man. That's all it took.
I hear you. That's that old life shit, you know?
And I thought I was doing good, too. I was like, man, my back's been feeling good today.
Oh, I'm so sorry, bud.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Ugh. I'm hobbling around town like Quasimodo over here.
I was at a show, about to play a concert, and I was backstage, and this, some hip hop song came on. I was like, good 90s hip hop that I was just like, yeah. And like, I shook my ass just naturally, just a natural occurrence, the pure natural reaction to that music coming on. And I like shifted, shook my ass to the left. And it was as if all of the joints and ligaments on the right side of my hip just stayed where they were, and my body moved. And while my body moved, so it just felt like I had ripped my hip out of its own. Like everything in my hip just felt like it ripped apart. And I was just like, I guess I can't shake my ass anymore.
Yeah. That happens.
It's a depressing thing, man.
Yeah.
It hasn't stopped me, but you got to warm up first.
You got to boogie a bit, and then you wind up breaking your ass.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. So you say there's some news. Some Star Trek news.
I cannot believe this has happened.
Ooh.
So you remember last week we talked about J.J. Abrams during that investor meeting announced, we are thrilled to say that we are hard at work on a new Star Trek film that will be shooting by the end of the year that will be featuring our original cast. Well, the Hollywood Reporter is now saying basically everyone's agents, everyone's representation, and all the stars involved are shocked. They were not aware that an announcement for another film was coming, much less that they were going to be touted as part of that deal.
Oh, no.
They had no idea. No one had any idea that they were shooting a movie by year's end. So the insiders are claiming that Pine, who's Kirk, is going to enter negotiations first. And he's basically the linchpin. And so the hope is to begin filming in the fall in order to make the December 22nd, 2023 theatrical release. The script is still being worked on. There's no green light. There's no budget in place. And in fact, now the budget will now pretty much have to account for talent deals that may be incredibly huge because Paramount just completely dropped all their negotiating leverage to make that announcement.
Right, because they're saying, we want to do it.
Yeah.
They've announced it. I mean, it's not like they can't go back and say, oh, well, we're not doing it. But, yeah, that's insane. How? So this was J.J. Abrams that made the announcement originally?
Yeah, but Paramount told them to do it. It was at their investment meeting, or their,
What the hell? So it sounds like they were just trying to make their investors happy that stuff's going on, and there was nothing going on.
I mean, there's something going on, but they just hadn't sealed the deal with anybody or talked to anybody yet.
Right. I mean, suppose you don't get the talent, you can still make a movie of some type with Star Trek. You could even make it in the Kelvinverse and with one or none of the actors, but that does seem a little suspect, Paramount.
That's real weird and dumb to me, but whatever, guys. You throw your money at it, and then you go, we didn't make a profit because we spent so much on the talent.
Yeah.
Gee, can't imagine that.
Yeah, that's a bummer, man. That's a bummer. Well, I'm sad to hear it. I'm excited to see more from that universe, and honestly, anything Star Trek would be great. Any movie. I mean, we're getting so much Star Trek right now. Like, I'm pretty happy and pretty sated, but like, you know, movies are a whole different scale. Like, I'd love to see them return to that.
Yeah, I mean, I want all the things.
Yeah.
As I generally say.
Same.
I wanted that Tarantino gangster thing. I wanted it.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Let's do, Django Unchained in space. I'll watch that. That was a good-ass movie, though. Did you see Django Unchained?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So good.
They dropped way too many spoon heads.
It was uncomfortable, but it was a fine film.
Yeah, no. It was for sure. I mean, you know, he always makes fun and interesting movies. Like I don't think he's ever really had a miss that's just like a complete miss.
Yeah, like Hateful Eight.
That one I haven't seen.
Oh, so here's the thing with Hateful Eight though, and it's interesting because he released Hateful Eight, and then Netflix gave him the opportunity to because he had so much footage. They gave him the opportunity to basically do like a mini series. So he did like this big director's expanded edition that's like as a series on Netflix, and I still haven't gone back and watched that one.
Oh wow!
But I think it's really interesting. It's a really neat idea. And, it's obviously just masturbation for him, but
for sure, the world of digital media and the ability to put out tons of content is great for people. I mean, like me and you who love to dig into the minutia of stuff we love. Like if Star Trek releases that kind of stuff, we'll watch all of it. If Marvel releases that stuff, if DC, that's the stuff we'll dig into. But it also is the case that movies are edited for a reason. The stuff that makes us love the stuff that we'll dig into for hours and hours is these tight movies that are well made. And when you just remove the need for editing, you get these crazy long things that sometimes are filled with, stuff that makes you lose the thread. It makes you lose the propulsion through the story. So it's a mixed bag is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it can be. But, Tarantino is one of those guys that, I'm just very, very... God, I wish I could see that Star Trek. I really do, because I like him as a director. And I know he did that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then he was like, I don't want to make a movie that's too long. But then he turned around and wrote a book that has all these subplots and stuff that he didn't include in the movie.
Did you see that one?
I haven't seen it yet. I still need to go see it.
Do you know what it's about?
I know it involves the Tates.
Okay, see, I did not know anything about it at all. And so the experience was very interesting because it is about historical events. Yeah. But he does he likes to do, which he twists those historical events. And yeah, I had no idea. And slowly, toward the end of the movie, I was like, wait, I've heard of these people. I just toward the end of the movie, I finally realized oh, this is that story being told by Tarantino, and he's putting a twist on it. I didn't know what it was. I just thought, oh, it's a Tarantino movie, and I have the afternoon. I'll go see it. I was stuck in some city.
It's one of those where I knew it was a Tarantino movie, so I was just I'm not going to get in depth in the storyline or pay attention because I know I'll see it. But, and then I listened to an interview they did on WTF, and I was I'm trying to not listen to what it's about, but then also being what's this book you say?
Very fascinated with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish they'd get their shit together over at Paramount, honestly.
Yeah.
This is
they're doing so much with the TV side, and it makes me it's crazy that they can't get that together. I don't know. I just I get it, being a creative person and trying to get stuff together. We try to do podcasting, and it's I want to keep all these different podcasts in the air, and keeping the balls in the air is sometimes very hard. But it just seems if you're Paramount and you got that much money, you put a person in charge of making sure that the plan is in place. Like we always talk about with Kevin Feige or whoever the team is at Marvel who plots stuff out. It seems if you have a universe like this, you'd want to okay, yeah, you guys make your own things individually as shows, but we need to have a plan. What is our goal?
Well, the other way to look at this though is, this is primarily new leadership over at Paramount at this point. And they did the research. They took the time, they spent the money to do the research and found that there was still a significant demand for these actors.
Yeah.
So them doing this might be, a send up to say, hey, come back, let's negotiate, we're serious, we'll pay you what you're worth.
Sure, yeah, that's true.
Previous leadership didn't want to go ahead and give you what you were worth.
Right. That's great. I love the idea that they're willing to pony up, but it kind of just makes you look like a clown car when you make announcements that people are in movies and they don't know it yet. Because, Chris Pine might have plans for 3 months of his life. He's been growing out that glorious beard. He's got those gray streaks. He looks so distinguished. Ooh, man. I want no. What's the name of old man, like old man Thor, Captain Kirk?
I don't know. Let's see his version of Captain Kirk at 50, where it's oh yeah, my son David. I don't even know him.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's the weird thing is obviously these actors are not the characters in the same way that the original actors were.
Yeah, I'm great with that. Brains. I don't want them to be.
I'm not saying that they're different. I'm saying that they're William Shatner will always be Captain Kirk first to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And same thing, Leonard Nimoy will always be Spock first to me. No matter what else they do. Chris Pine is Chris Pine. And Zachary Quinto is Siler. You know what I mean? It's weird because I know them from other stuff. It's they're not indelibly linked to those roles and those actors to me. Mm-hmm. They're not so linked that that's all they are to me. It's hard for me to see any of the original crew as anything but those things. Yeah. And I know they've done other great things. It's just those are what I'll always think of them as.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because they do have a little bit of time behind them now where revisiting those roles now would feel oh, they're coming back. It's weird to think about that. Because 2009 was 13 years ago. That's wild. That is so freaking wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to see it.
But 2016 wasn't that long ago.
No. I'm just saying how long they've been in the role. The 2009 Star Trek. That's such a long time to have been Captain Kirk,
Mm-hmm. So, I'm hopeful. It is not as exciting as it was last week, though, when I was holy shit, this is happening.
Yeah. If someone's willing to make an official announcement, I expect to believe it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many reports you hear about all these different universes that you're it seems like a pretty solid report. It's not official. It's not on their official Twitter, but this show is being pretty heavily rumored. Then you're okay, right. I'm kind of already believing that rumor because it seems so solid. It seems logical. It seems solid. It seems like enough people are talking about it. Okay. But when you hear it officially, a lot of times by the time you hear it officially, you've already been hearing about it for a year. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is official announcement out of nowhere. And we're oh my gosh. Ah!
Well, it wasn't an official announcement out of nowhere because we knew that JJ was working on it on a secret Star Trek project since October or so.
Okay.
But it is weird. And it sucks because I do DC on Screen and I do this show and I'm well, time to go over to do Star Trek where I don't have to worry about stupid ass Warner Brothers screwing up my mood. Damn it. Paramount is really trying to be Warner Brothers here.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. A lot of loving this stuff because so many of us fans are so following along with every tweet, you know what I mean? With every casting announcement and all this stuff, unlike previous generations, because of that reality, you have to be very thoughtful about how this stuff comes out. And some companies are great at that and some companies aren't. And it's because it's not only damaging to the marketing of the film, which it is, but it is damaging to your experience of the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's, sort of guilt on all sides on this. I think Marvel's really good at this, but even them,
I
think about their freaking Ant-Man debacle from a few years ago, and it's still one of my greatest like things I'm mad at, because Edgar Wright was on that movie. I was so excited about an Edgar Wright movie, and then apparently they had not come to terms with what that movie should be before they announced it, and so they had to lose one of my favorite directors of all time to slot in somebody else. And it's like, I will always think Ant-Man I like Ant-Man a lot, but I'll always think like, what could he have been? You know, what could the character have been if Edgar Wright had done that movie? And
then you have stuff like, I mean, it happened more than once, because they had, I think it was Patty Jenkins who did Wonder Woman, who was on Thor: The Dark World and then took off, and they replaced her.
And it's one of the worst MCU movies, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like it's tough. It's tough when not only does this sort of behind the scenes stuff affect the marketing of the film and like how well you think it's put together, but it like affects your experience of the film. You know, you go to those movies and you're like, what? This could have been so much better. Ooh, you're just comparing it to this, you know, platonic ideal of what the other movie could have been, you know?
Yeah, which is a problem, I feel like, in fandom in general. Where it's
Agreed. Agreed. It's not the new director's fault. But it is the studio's fault for not making these, like, not making concerted effort to protect the experience of the fans. They know what culture's like now.
And, you know, Scott Derrickson was doing Doctor Strange 2, and then, like, he left, and now it's Sam Raimi. And I'm like, I'm excited to see Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see what Scott Derrickson was cooking up, because he was talking about how scary it was going to be.
Yeah, it was going to be a horror movie. But that's the thing, though. Sam Raimi also has a pretty strong horror background.
Yeah.
But, like... Yeah. In that case, I like Scott Derrickson. I really like the Conjuring stuff. We just covered it on Bingers recently. But like, man, Sam Raimi, like that's an upgrade. That's like an absolute upgrade. You just can't deny. Like, no offense to Scott Derrickson, make great movies, and I would have been on board for that. But like, the amount of excitement I've had this year thinking about Spider-Man: No Way Home. And the fact that we were about to get a Raimi movie back in the Marvel Universe, all kind of clustered together with multiverse stuff, I was just like floored. This whole year has been a year of excitement for me. And then it paid off with No Way Home. We'll see with Multiverse of Madness.
I was, you know, I saw this thing where it looked like it was the editor and the writer of the article fighting a little bit. And it was like the headline was, Sam Raimi finally breaks his silence on Spider-Man: No Way Home. And then like the little subtitle there was, he said it's delightful.
Fucking clickbait bullshit.
I feel like the writer of the article was like, I hate this title. Oh my God. Because, you know, editors will make them change the title to something clickbaity. So they're just like, nope, I'm going to make sure it shows up in all the little like web engines and search engines and stuff. Like, he said it's delightful. There you go. There.
Yeah. No, it's so funny. And like, as a content creator, it's like, we make podcasts. And so like, sometimes you want the thing that the podcast is called to be hooky and something people want to listen to, you know? You're like, ooh, what are they talking about? That sounds interesting. But like, you also don't want to lie, because you want to be like, have integrity about what the thing is. So it's like this weird balance of like trying to be interesting without crossing a line. And that kind of stuff just crosses the line. And it's like, I hate that shit.
That's why every episode of DC on Screen is called My Dick Hurts.
That's true. That's true.
I'm kidding.
Go
That's
check
not
the
true.
feed.
Don't say.
No, guys. Here's the thing. So you got to go over to DC on Screen, go check the feed, see and if it doesn't say My Dick Hurts, hit subscribe, and then you'll see it.
Yeah, that's true. Go subscribe.
And make sure it's set to auto download every week.
Yeah. I trick people into thinking my DC Comics podcast is really like a WebMD thing. Why does my dick hurt?
That's got to be Google searched more than DC Comics, right?
Yeah. Seven signs that you have dick cancer.
Yeah. That's what DC stands for. DC on Screen.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd go there.
Dick complications.
Dick cancer. That's what it stands for.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move away from the dick jokes and move into talking about Discovery. This here episode. What do you think, my friend? Galactic Barrier. We're back. We're back to the Galactic Barrier.
We're back where we started. Well, kind of. Mm-hmm. I kind of felt like this one fell flat for me. Like, seriously, fell flat for me. And I hate saying that because I don't ever want that to be the case, and I feel really bad about it. But man, this was just I really liked Tarkus flashbacks. Mm-hmm. I thought that was solid.
They would have been way better if we didn't already know the story.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because I thought we were going to find out something new. Or there was that moment in the Tarka story where he was like, by the way, this is the one where they finally reach the Galactic Barrier and they retell Tarka's backstory. I always mean to give a quick synopsis so people know if they listen to it.
We haven't done it like this whole season.
I know that's not true. I do. I almost always do a little this is the one where, just 2 sentences, but it at least gives people frame of reference if they're listening back to these episodes.
This is the one where they're in a ship.
They're in the ship and they're encountering an anomaly. This episode, I'm annoyed at this episode too. Because it didn't do anything. That's not true. The one big thing, but I feel like, and I was kind of annoyed at this too, was the one big thing is the DMA has moved into Alpha Quadrant. Which is big, but it's like almost too big. Yeah. The stakes were already there. I was fully into the idea that the 10C were this galactic threat that's destroying our galaxy. Like, that's all I need to know. You don't have to make it about Earth and Vulcan.
Right. Navarre.
Right. That. I know. I'm sorry.
Now, look, and there were several things in this episode that felt incredibly ham-fisted and incredibly forced. Like, one, there's this bit with Kovich who's saying, like, oh, I've got bigger things to do. I've got more important things to do. And they're like, what is bigger than this? And he's like, hey, that's my job is to keep you from knowing.
I loved that. I thought you would love that line.
I enjoyed the line, but the weird thing that hit me was that it felt like they were setting up a spinoff. Because then he's like taking, what was his name, Bryce? Like the guy who finally got a couple of lines last week.
Oh, right.
And like it's like a sudden scene that's just kind of shoehorned in where he's saying goodbye to Saru, and I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, you're going with Kovich. Okay, well that feels weird. Who cares? Go. Like
he's not a character that's on screen enough. And they didn't do. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. These shows are hard to make, and I don't want to fault them because,
well, they're hard to make, but on the same time, every other Star Trek series that is on has done a better job.
Of what?
Of making a story that doesn't yank me out of it every 5 seconds. I know we had some issues with Picard, but I still feel like Picard was overall a better series than Discovery's ever been. And I wish Discovery could get something. I don't know.
See, I don't think this episode's problems are global with Discovery. I think this episode's problems are pretty specific. And to me, it's that, we know they're going to meet 10C. They say at the beginning of this episode, and I thought we were going to get there because they had this whole long conversation at the beginning of the episode, like, all right, we're going to go see 10C, and here's all the issues with that. Here's our idea of translation. We don't know how it'll work. Like, this is outside of our galaxy. It could be totally different rules. La, 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 la. All that stuff. And then they're like, now get ready to go. So when you start an episode with that, I expect you to have dovetail that with at least some sort of hint or they're there. You know what I mean? And instead, it was basically an episode of them just traveling, traveling and finding out that, it just felt like we say it all the time, but there's some episodes that just feel like you're moving them from point A to point B.
Right.
This felt that way. And very little that I cared about really occurred in this episode. Like you said, the Tarka stuff was well done. It's a great backstory. It did confirm what he had told Book in a previous episode, but the fact that we knew all of the beats, I was just like, well, what's the point of showing us if you've already told us?
I mean, the one thing that they showed us that they hadn't told us is that he was responsible for screwing his friend over, or whatever the guy was.
Right. See, and when I misunderstood during that section, I thought we were going to find out that he had like screwed his friend over in that moment, like after everything they'd been through, that he screwed, like maybe like he decided to, we can only transport one person, and so he like killed his friend or something. You know what I mean? Like, like something he did something crazy at the end.
Yeah, it's like O'Brien in Hard Time. Yeah. So okay, there was, and that was I'll get to that in a second. Hold on. Another case of shoehorning in. We find out, oh my God, the DMA is going to Navarre and Earth, and then like weirdly, without that knowledge, everyone on the bridge starts rattling about all the stuff they're gonna do on Earth, and I'm
all on Earth, like,
God, that was hammy. That was so bad.
It was. This episode's ham-fisted for sure. I agree. And it doesn't do much to the storyline. Like, I really am annoyed that we didn't get to... We got to the Galactic Barrier, which I did enjoy this weird, like... What did they call it? Like, the cells or whatever they're going through?
Yeah,
I know you enjoy, like, the weird, sort of, like, crazy out there...
I did enjoy that they went black and white when they went through the grayscale bubbles.
Yeah.
That was funny, but
it was funny, and it's weird that they're going through, they're like surfing cells, basically. Like, it's weird that the Galactic Barrier is full of cells. Like, that's a weird thing. It's weird, and it's kind of neat. It's kind of retro and just like sort of weird sci-fi stuff that I dig. I dug all that.
Yeah, I think like a couple, like last week or whatever, I was like, hell yeah, they're going to the Galactic Barrier. Hopefully we'll get some like Gary Mitchell gods. And then like the first like 10 minutes of the episode, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to put this coating all over the ship so that, it won't affect people's frontal cortex. And I'm like, you sons of bitches. You're stopping the gods, aren't you? That's what that means. They're not going to get shocked in their frontal cortex or whatever, and now they're not going to have the white eyes and start making Michael pray to them or something. Like, man, like I really wanted to see that. Like, I wanted to see something, whatever. So whatever.
For the most part, this episode is like fine. I agree with you. Some ham-fisted stuff. But it's like, for the most part, fine. It's just, it doesn't feel like a story. And that's one of the things, we say it all the time, but like, you got to make an episode itself, even in a world where everything is connected. An episode still has to have a beginning, middle, and end. It has to have an arc. And I know they did some subtle things. It wasn't subtle at all, but they were very small things with like, the president deciding to tell everyone that Earth and Navarre were in trouble. Like that's like that's the arc of this. That's the A plot of this episode. Like what a boring A plot when you're dealing with like, like you said, they could have dealt with crazy Gary Mitchell gods, or they could have, actually reached their destination and given us more time to explore what 10C is. They just used this episode to travel and to sort of ratchet up the stakes, which were already galactic. Like, they just had to make it personal to the crew, which to me almost, I don't know, it almost undercuts the Federation ideals. Like, when you have to make it personal to the crew, that like, it's not enough that the galaxy's at stake. We got to know that, Earth is at stake.
Yeah. And it's like, they're saying goodbye to people and stuff, and they're just like, say your goodbyes. Like, well, this is it. You're probably not coming back. But none of these people have family.
Right.
So they got to like try to leave behind a couple of people from Discovery and say goodbye to them. And because they're the only thing they have left except for Earth. And then like, oh yeah, we got to make this count. I don't know. It just felt gross. I don't know how else to say it, really. Yeah. I'm not bright.
Well, no, you're great, man. I'm with you. It was, that's a bummer. I was hoping, I was like, I didn't speak for the first couple of minutes. I'll let you speak about the episode, because I was like, I was sit down on this episode. Maybe you'll have a different take and you'll excite me. No, it didn't. This one didn't resonate with either. A lot of times that happens. A lot of times one or the other of us liked it more than the other, and we kind of pull each other together.
I enjoyed Kovic's communications joke.
I did too. It was really good.
I liked. I don't remember his name. The Asian guy who kept eating. He was eating, and I thought something was going to happen. I was like,
it was Hyro.
Yeah, I was like, why does he keep eating? Like every scene he was in, he was eating, and it was like one of those things where, like, if it was like a normal procedural, you'll be like, oh shit, something's going to happen with that eating. Something's going to happen, and we're just going to be like, but then nothing did. It was just weird.
Yeah.
Like,
well, okay. It's interesting because, that's the thing. They introduced that guy. They introduced the idea of translation. They introduced all this stuff at the beginning of this episode, which I guess they could have done that on the ship next episode. It just felt like it was setting them up that this is the beginning of the episode, and we're introducing this, like, linguistic specialists, so that the end of the episode, the story will end with them using all of these things and trying to communicate.
Yeah.
And they just didn't. They didn't even get to them to start that process.
Right.
And also, I liked that character of, I think it was Hyro. I liked him a lot, and I was like, oh, this guy seems funny. Like, I really liked that he laughed so hard at such a nerdy joke and then tried to explain it, which completely destroyed it. Like, I love that kind of humor. And then he was gone. Like, he didn't appear again. I was like, okay.
And I loved Kovic, like, chuckling, like, yeah, you get it. Like it just, that was fun.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
I loved that, Shrek service bullshit, but I loved that, like, he had all of those universal translators, including one from the original series.
Yep.
I'm like, I recognize you.
Yep.
I love that they had, like, the TNG communicator. I liked all that shit, but that didn't make a good episode.
No, it doesn't. The one part I did like, and I know you thought it was ham-fisted, I did not think of it being a spin-off idea, but I loved that Kovic mentions again that he's got more important things going on. And the reason I liked that is because I don't think they're dropping the Kovic knows more than we know. Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, and I was good with that until they were like, hey, the guy that spoke last week on the bridge is going with him. And I'm like, this feels weird.
You know what it also could be? It could be the spinoff that we don't know about. It could be setting up things for Starfleet Academy that they've talked about making. Like, because Kovic seems to be somewhat involved with that. Between that and Section 31, like, I don't know what we're going to get, but, like, I think we might get some Kovic involved in all those things. And I'd love for, like, let's say they do like there's threats you don't know about, right? So then we get like a Harry Potter style storyline for Academy where there's like, the headmaster who is Kovic, who's sort of like directing things, right? He's fighting Voldemort, whoever this dark threat is. And then the Academy people kind of like have to sort of uncover what's actually going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That stuff's fun.
That'd be cool. Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, totally. You end up with the Academy cadets are like fighting a threat that like our regular crews don't even know about, yet. That's fun. That could be fun stuff.
Stu Little wrote in and said, in regards to Michael addressing the crew and saying, when I was a child, he's like, oh my God, will you just shut up and jump the ship already? We don't need a speech every episode from you. And then he was like, she also speechifies to the quote unquote best diplomat in Starfleet for 20 years. Who's the president of the Federation. I see his point.
Yeah.
And when she said, when I was a child, I went,
Something that I've liked about this season has been that the president and Kovic have been actually like functioned as mentors for the crew.
Yeah.
They haven't been the asshole like admiral. They've been the like, hey, I got information that you need. Like, I am more mature than you. But they still feel like they have to give Burnham like, yeah, but I got all this experience. Let me tell you what life's like. President of the Federation. And not that like you can't have that. You can't be learning different things from different people in your lives. Emotional intelligence is different than experience and all that stuff. But like, it is funny. It is funny.
And, I know this is a common thing people complain about, is Michael whispering all the time.
Yep.
And I will say, normally it doesn't really bother me.
Yep.
Everybody's got their bullshit. Everybody's got their way of acting. Shatner and Avery Brooks were very melodramatic, and Picard was Shakespearean. Look, everybody in this episode was whispering and mumbling so much, I could not understand what was happening. Everyone.
I noticed this episode, which I'd never noticed before, and it's because the two actresses kept facing away from camera when they were talking, and I think it may have been some ADR, I don't know, but Burnham and the President's voices, they both whispered a lot, and they sound...
They were doing that shit all, and then when Tarka and his boy were getting attacked, he was like, my ribs. I'm like, what are you guys saying? Like, me and Bethany kept having to like rewind it, and like we were trying to put on the captions, and then the captions were like horribly out of sync.
They were really out of sync.
And I was like, what is happening?
Man, you had one job, captions guy.
It was a frustrating watch.
Yeah, that is frustrating. The other thing I was trying to say about the two actresses, their voices are very similar. And like they kept facing away from camera and talking, and I didn't know who was saying what. I kept being like, wait, whose voice is whose? Like, because they were both doing the, this is very intense sci-fi things we're talking about. Let's talk about them. Like, they both spoke very similarly, and I was like, weird. I never noticed your voices were similar until you're not looking at the camera while you're talking.
And when Michael was talking about, like, her mom isn't on Navarre, she was like, and we were like, what? And we kept rewinding it, and then we finally we put on the captions, and we saw it way out of sync, but we were like, oh, she didn't say English anyway. She was just it was alien shit.
Her mom not being on Navarre makes me nervous for Navarre, because I think they're going to want to include her mom in future seasons or in a Kawat Malat spinoff. Who knows? And like, I think they want to keep her mom around. So the fact that she's not on Navarre makes me like, ooh, are we going to lose Navarre next episode?
Yeah. But I did look it up. And what she said was that her mom was still on whatever that planet with the prison that had the rogue whatever they are. Kawat Malat. I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I don't know how I remembered just a minute ago. It was a miracle. Thank you, Lord.
But yeah, I know I hate shitting on Discovery.
Me too.
I really want it to be so good.
I have no ill will, and I've been I think part of the reason this one was bad for me is because I'm so excited about 10C. Like, I've been excited about 10C for about 4 or 5 episodes now. So when this one started with all this translator talk and like they're bringing along this person, I was like, yes, we're getting started on what this whole season's been pointing towards. We're about to meet whoever's beyond the Galactic Barrier. And then it just ended. And I was like, okay.
I saw someone on Twitter point out a really cool thing that I hadn't noticed. When we're talking about the boronite and how they make on Voyager, when they were talking about how you can make an omega particle with it. When they're showing the omega particle, it looks just like what was in the middle of the DMA.
Okay.
Like, it's the same shape and everything. It looks exactly like it, almost. And even though they haven't said omega particle, we do know they're using boronite.
Right.
To power this shit. So I just thought that was really cool.
Or they're mining boronite, but yeah.
Yeah. But I believe the showrunners came out and said that they were not actually going to be like we don't know the 10C. They will be an original species.
Cool. Yeah,
Star Trek.
I've been expecting that. So I'm sure there will be like some sort of book like we've talked about that connects them to somebody else, but like I think we're going to get something wholly new and interesting. Right. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about expanding the Star Trek universe to be something somewhere beyond our galaxy. That's just something they've never done before, and that's cool.
I know they said no ship has ever done it, but I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the Enterprise did go through the Galactic Barrier by any other name. I think they got through it.
I don't think they said no one's ever done it.
They
He
did.
said few people have ever seen this, is what they said.
Well, in that scene they did, but Admiral Vance says no one's ever made it through.
Okay. Huh. Unless those were like classified or something in some way that they don't know.
Yeah, it's possible that was classified. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I'm not sweating it, but I did kind of go
Yeah.
as I do.
I leave this episode the same way I left the last like 4 episodes. I am very excited to see who 10C is and what they actually do with that. I really hope we don't get I'm worried because this episode ended with her saying, I sent a team, or I have a team working on looking at this planet so they can figure out how to locate 10C.
That'll be next episode.
Right, exactly. I was like, oh no, now we're going to have a whole nother episode. I thought the whole point was we triangulated their location and now we just got to head there.
They've got to give Book and Tarka time to catch up, man.
That's true.
They got to save that cat all over the galaxy.
No, they don't. They got like spore drives. They can do whatever they want. And then I did actually kind of like it. In horror movies.
Well, they did say Sport Drive doesn't work.
I was about to say I liked that they took away the Sport Drive. You know how in horror movies they always make cell phones not work. Like cell phones never work in horror movies. Some movies give it a reason. Other movies just like they open it up and their cell phone doesn't work. For whatever reason because they can't.
Like where they're in Halloween, it was like it's the 70s. That's why there's no cell phones.
Right. They wanted the Galactic Barrier to be something they had to actually traverse. So they and after they get it past the Galactic Barrier, for them not to be able to use the mycelial network. So now we have like the mycelial network is dissipating at this distance. We can't use it here or something. Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. I enjoyed that. I like where I suspect this season will be way more satisfactory if we were able to binge it.
Agreed. Like, I was about to say, like, this episode feels like it should have gotten somewhere new. If I was watching this consecutively, I wouldn't have bothered me. Like, if they'd released 2 episodes.
Consensually.
No.
Like, I'd go over to your house, I'll hold a gun to your head. Watch the effing show, Matt.
Episode. No, I don't want to. But no, yeah. If you're watching these in a row, like you said, binging, totally would have enjoyed this more. Probably. Who knows how the next one ends? If they take 3 or 4 more episodes before they get to the freaking 10C, I'm going to be annoyed. I'm going to be more and more annoyed every episode they take, which is not a great place to be because I feel like they're going to take a few more episodes.
Oh, yeah. I think they're going to take every episode, which I'm happy, but the next season is 10 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
They have way less episodes next season.
That's good news. I really think that's good news. Is this season only 12 episodes? I'm looking at an episode guide, and it looks like this was episode 10. So they've only got 2 more. Okay, so hopefully...
No, we got 3 more, I think.
Okay, so 13 then. The episode guide stops at 12, so sometimes that means something, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it means they're going to do a 2-hour finale.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about where they're going still. I just feel like they didn't do much to get there this episode. And I don't just mean... like get to the sci-fi fun of the battles or something. Like I do care about the character stuff in this episode, or I do care about the character stuff on the show. I just didn't feel like any of this stuff mattered. Like it was like, oh
yeah, and it was like, oh hey, Adira's back, and Adira is awkward. And there's that really weird scene with Stamets where he's just trying to lavish on the praise, and then like later goes and apologizes for it, and I was just like, man, this was just awkward. Oh, and the thing with Saru where he like went to the president of Navarre and was like talking her up, and she just like looked at him like a deer in the headlights. Right. Like she was like, and then he was like, oh god, I shouldn't have done that. And then like later she was down with it, and I'm like, man, this is just all so awkward. Yeah,
well, it was because they wanted her to be worried about going on the journey. She wasn't sure. Mm-hmm. She wasn't sure yet if she was going to be able to stay behind or leave. She's waiting on her delegate or whatever. And she's too consumed with that to deal with her dating life at the moment. And I get that. I think that's a fine reaction. And it's fine. But like, that's a more interesting storyline going on in her head than watching Saru worry about rejection. Like, I just, and not that rejection isn't real, but in the face of galactic destruction, Like, I kind of always hate when you even take a second.
Yeah, it felt like it just felt really shoehorned in. It really felt like it took me out of the story of what was happening, because I was like, wait, what are we doing? What? Oh my God.
I don't know. I go back and forth.
So
I know
awkward.
I feel like I'm being all like, stop focusing on the character stuff. But I just didn't. I think the character stuff didn't work for me. And so I just don't care. I'm like, yeah, keep moving.
Yeah, this was by and large like the most awkward they've ever like stuck scenes into a show. Like these, like, I feel like they did it over and over again in this episode where they were just like, well, here's another scene. And you're like, what am I watching, Altman's MASH? This is bizarre. What are we doing here?
Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. All right. Well, guys, we appreciate you listening to the Star Trek universe. We're going to get out of here because I have to drive to Montgomery and play a show tonight.
And I have to draw starships for money.
Ooh, dude, that's super rad. I'm glad you got some commissions coming in. If you guys want some really bad A commissions. Badass. I'm sorry. I don't know why. I forgot what part.
I said dick like 15 times.
Ass is just too far over the line. If you want some badass commissions, for real, Dave does commissioned artwork. And he does cool, like, character artwork. Like, he can draw people. He can draw really, really well. And also, as he just said, ships from different eras of Star Trek. He's like, you got a cool one right now where you're putting the Defiant with the original Enterprise, right?
Yeah, for Lord Magnus over on Twitter. Yeah.
That's super rad. Super rad. So if you guys like any of that kind of stuff, like, seriously, hit him up. Where can they find you?
You can... I don't know, Drawing with Dave on Instagram if you want to check out what I'm doing, and I guess you can message me at David C. Robertson on Twitter, or drawingwithdave1@gmail.com if you want to message me that way, or whatever.
Any sort of reach out to our cast or Stranded Panda or anything, we can get in touch with Dave. But yeah, yep. Star Trek UCast@gmail is the place you can leave feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back soon with more Discovery talk. Hopefully we will be able to be more positive next week.
Yeah.
Peace. Joel on True.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.